Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, everybody, for being here today. Mr. Chancellor, it is not only now, but probably throughout the history of civilization, that the wishes of people in certain areas of interest were thwarted because their governments of the time had different priorities. No less than in the field of nature conservation do people tend to feel frustrated by governments whose mantra to promote economic development sidelines the protection of nature. Those who care enough to act must do so individually, often through incredible commitment and sacrifice, and often after repeated failures in the face of arguments about the need for progress. Sometimes the only course of action to those whose interest is the protection of nature is, when individual action seems ineffective or far too exhausting, is to donate to organizations whose sole mandate it is to buy or protect land or work to increase the understanding of nature. And finally, another avenue, less direct, but possibly equally effective, is through environmental education, as educators can, at least if they are lucky and they have willing and receptive students, increase the awareness of these students to nature, and as a consequence, increase the number of caring individuals in our society. Dr. J. Bruce Falls has, in his lifetime, both created and used these avenues towards promoting nature conservation and awareness in the province of Ontario. Early on, he was the co-chair of the Conservation Panel of the International Biological Program for Ontario, one of the first organizations in the province to survey and document important natural areas to target for conservation. As president of the Federation of Ontario Naturalists in the early 1960s, he helped to found the Nature Conservancy of Canada, one of the most effective and politically astute organizations for promoting land conservation in our province and our country. In 1962, he chaired this organization, and last year it celebrated 50 years as a key organization of conserving Ontario's natural heritage. There was a local connection in that the first piece of property purchased by the NCC, or the Nature Conservancy of Canada, in Ontario in 1962 was the Cavan Swamp in neighboring Cavan-Monaghan Township. Dr. Falls has also, through his commitment to biological field courses during his 35 years as a professor of zoology at the University of Toronto, encouraged and passed on the tradition of respect and wonder for nature to countless undergraduate and graduate students. His work in the field, particularly at the Wildlife Research Station at Algonquin Park, also culminated in important long-term studies on both small mammals and birds, both of which continue in a variety of forms to this day. His work on small mammals spanned 36 years, and as these animals feed on the forest tree crops, and in turn are fed on by a variety of predators, this work led to important insights about the cycling in animal populations. His work on birdsong was the first to use playback song recordings in experimental settings to understand the function of this lovely and particularly compelling part of our natural world. In other graduations, we do hear this. Dr. Falls has left a monumental legacy to all those who are interested in nature conservation, and through his actions over the last 60 years, has made it easier to move forward effectively. Mr. Chancellor, I have the great honor to present to you for the degree of Doctor of Science, honoris causa, Dr. J. Bruce Falls.